Hey guys, this is Bridget with San Diego Seed Company, and today I'm going to be doing a deep dive into seed starting, and specifically how do you start seeds of tiny seeds, particularly flower seeds that can be very difficult to start. I'm going to go over that in this video. Alright, so if you watch the whole video, you're going to learn how to start really tiny seeds, and you're going to learn some pro tips that I've learned in commercial greenhouses to make sure that you get every single tiny seed to germinate, so you save time, energy, and money, and also so that you can feel in control and be able to pick up any pack of seeds, whether it's a tiny seed or a big seed, and know exactly how to get it started quickly and easily. Okay, so let's start from the beginning and talk about tiny seeds. So there's a lot of different varieties of tiny seeds, from flower seeds to herb seeds. Particularly some natives can be really tiny seeds. And let's just get into the science real quick of why tiny seeds are hard to start. Well, a seed is a living, respiring organism, and when you hold it in your hand, it's actually passing oxygen through its seed coat. It's alive. You listen, you can actually hear it. It'll talk to you. Trust me, I'm not crazy. So when you hold it in your hand, you know you have a little organism that has energy. The smaller the seed, the less energy it actually has to burst through and break through soil. So the most common thing that happens with new gardeners, or even experienced gardeners, is they put too much soil on top of those seeds, and there's simply not enough energy in that seed to break through the soil and make it to the top. Now let's take it a step further, and you'll actually notice that some seed packs on the back will say requires light to germinate. Well, you guessed it, the seed packs that say that are going to be seeds that are really small. Now let's think for a minute why that is. Why would a really small seed require light to germinate? Well, if a tiny seed is buried too deep and it starts to germinate, guess what? It never makes it to the top. It never actually fulfills its destiny to grow and be a beautiful plant and pass its seeds into the universe. And so over time, those tiny seeds have evolved to have a dependency on feeling the sun rays, the light, to know that it's a good time to germinate. Isn't that fascinating? God, I love this stuff. So just know you don't have to remember any of this. Just read the back of the seed pack. Any good seed company is going to say, I know we always note it, whether or not it requires light to germinate. If it doesn't say it, but it's a really tiny seed, then you know you have to put a very small amount of finely sifted soil on top of those seeds to get them to germinate quickly and evenly. Now, if you've taken any of our seed starting workshops or a seed starting class online, you know I go into depth talking about the importance of using high quality seed starting mix. Our seed starting mix, like our black gold, is really good and meant to be specifically for seed starting. The qualities that make it good is that it's very fine material that is very even in its sizes. There's no large sticks, rocks. It's very fine and light. You can tell this is dry, so I need to go through and kind of break it up. But it's very light and fluffy, and even the perlite or the vermiculite in it is relatively small and even in size. That's what makes really good seed starting mix. If you use a potting mix that's going to have larger particles in it, or even if you're planting tiny seed directly outside in your garden soil, that garden soil could have really big particles. Part of the reason why most seed packs with really small seeds says best transplanted is because of that reason. It's a tiny seed. It needs a lot of extra help to get started. So let's go into the actual steps of how you would start the seed with really good high quality seed starting mix. So basically you'll take a very tiny seed, whatever kind you have. I've got marmalade here, Rudbeckia, and look at those. It's like literally teensy weensy tiny little seeds. You're going to take your tray, or if you're doing soil blocks, you can have your soil blocks ready. You're going to remove any large chunks that are going to be in the way. The soil is nice and moist. I pre-moistened this yesterday. And I'm going to take this seed and I'm going to put it on top of the soil. I'm not putting a hole and dropping the seed in there to die, okay? I am top seeding all of my trays so that I can have accurate seeding that I put right in the middle, and I know exactly where it is. So I stick these little guys on there. And they are really hard to see. You can use a little seeder if you want, if you're doing a lot. I'm just doing a few so I can see that it's stuck. The beauty of also using the pre-moistened soil is it's sticky, so when you when you stick the soil or the seed on top, it'll kind of pull it from your finger. So I know I've got seeds in these 3 cells in this tray, and now I need to cover it, okay? First, always read the back, and does it say, if there's any special requirement, it'll say on here. This one says, press seeds into soil without covering them. Seeds need light to germinate. So that's all I'm gonna do, okay? Now I know that can feel very counterintuitive, just putting a seed on top of the soil and not covering it, but I promise it's worth it. Follow the instructions, they're there for a reason. Don't cover them. Now I have another seed that is also very small, but doesn't say it needs to have access to sunlight to germinate. So we know we need to cover it, and it'll actually say on the back too, it says planting depth 1/16 of an inch. So that's itsy weensy tiny little amount. So we're gonna follow the same instructions, and we're gonna take this and we are going to put a few seeds on top. Now, general rule of thumb is the smaller the seed, the more likely you will have a lower germination rate naturally, because if there's any tiny little chunk of soil that gets on top of these seeds, they may not be able to make it to the top. So if you're sowing any tiny seed, always maybe sow a couple extra to just make sure that you have a little insurance plan for your starts. So I'm gonna take these, I'm gonna sprinkle them on top. I'm putting maybe 4 or 5 in there. And now I need to cover it with finely sifted soil. And there's a couple different ways you can do that. You can either do what Bo, our tomato expert, does. He actually keeps finely sifted soil that he pre-sifts and puts in a container that he has on hand. Like, that's what he does on his weekends, is sits around and sifts soil, which is hilarious. So you can either do that, or you can sift it on the run, which is what I do, where I have a sifter and I'm basically taking it and sifting the soil over the top of the seeds. Now, what kind of sifter do you need? Well, it doesn't really matter. I mean, for a while I was using our spaghetti strainer. My husband got really mad and he's like, stop doing that. So I went to the Goodwill and I got all kinds of different sizes. They all have a different size of mesh, and so you are going to decide which one you want depending on how small the seed is. Now, you saw that seed was eensy weensy teeny tiny. So I'm going to use my smallest size strainer, which really has very fine size mesh. And I'm going to use that to basically just sprinkle the lightest misting over the top of the soil. Now, I'm sure you're thinking, okay, well, how do I know what 1/16 of an inch is? You really don't. Basically, what you want to do is make sure that you have full coverage, so that if that seed fell off into the side, I know I'm getting it covered. And the beauty of using high quality seed starting mix is, even if I accidentally put too much sifted soil on top, the seed is still likely to germinate quickly and evenly. This is a pro tip that we teach in our seed starting workshops, which really you can do this for every single seed. Some seeds don't really benefit. If it's a very large seed, it's kind of a waste of your time. But we still use this method on peppers and tomatoes and eggplants because it's a pretty small seed and I want quick and easy germination. So that is how I'm going to cover it. And because this seed starting mix has already been pre-moistened, I don't have to water on top. And I actually don't want to do that in this particular situation because the seeds are so small, I can actually push the seeds off to the side and basically dislodge them and have a lower germination rate. So by taking this seedling tray and putting it in a bottom watering tray, I can bottom water, and that is going to ensure that the seeds stay put where I planted them, and I get better germination rates. So let's talk about the benefit of taking your time when you're seeding these small seeds. And here's a prime example. Tiny seeds, it's really easy to just kind of get in a hurry and just like throw a bunch in the cell. Well, if you have really good germination rates and you're using high quality seed starting mix, most of them will likely germinate. And then guess what? You have a little cell that has a bunch of little guys in it, and now you have to painstakingly move them to other cells because this is too many. These are snapdragons, and you can see this is exactly what we did here. We sowed way too many per cell, and you can actually see the ones that have one, the stem is way bigger and it's way happier than these overseeded cells. You have to thin this. If you don't thin it, you're wasting your time because those will never grow up to be big and happy. And I'll show you how we can do that real quickly. You just take a little spoon like this. This is like a, you know, a little yolk or a little ice cream spoon, and you can divide these guys up. I'm actually just gonna discard because I have enough here, some of these smaller ones. Just gonna, I know it's hard. You can hear them screaming, right? Like, no, I wanna live. Sorry, gotta be ruthless sometimes. And then I'm gonna transfer them into a cell where there isn't one. So that is gonna grow up to be way bigger and way happier than this cell here that's got way too many in them. And now the reason why it matters is, you know, seeds can be kind of expensive, especially if you love to buy seeds. So if you use all of the seeds in a pack and then you have to pull out more than 50% of them, you wasted half that pack and you doubled your work and your time in getting your transplants to a size you want to plant out. All right, so as promised, if you've watched this whole video, that you now know how to start any tiny seed. You've got the pro tips like using a sifter, using really good high quality seed starting mix, and making sure you get every single tiny seed to germinate. And it's funny, right now there is a huge boom in people who want to grow flowers and have flower farms. Well, a lot of flower seed is really tiny. So this video is for you guys who are trying to start Lysianthus seed and really tiny, difficult to start seeds so you can be successful. Please subscribe to our channel so we can help you be a better gardener, and comment on this video and let me know what are your tips and tricks you've learned on how to start tiny seeds or really any difficult seed. We love hearing from you, so comment on the video. All right, so if you're up for the challenge, here's two varieties that I really love that can be a little difficult to start. So Rudbeckia, we started growing it on the farm last year, and it's just an incredible plant. Very small seed, but once you get the hang of it, you'll have a lot of plants all season long. Also, snapdragons. I've recently become a little obsessed with snapdragons. Tiny seed, but now you know how to start them, and so you can have beautiful snapdragons. In fact, all year long in Zone 10 in your garden.